LETTER XLIX OF Clarissa Harlowe, or the History of a Young Lady, Vol. 9. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Nicole Lee. Clarissa Harlowe, or the History of a Young Lady, Vol. 9, by Samuel Richardson. LETTER XLIX. Miss Howe to John Belford, Esq. Monday, October 2nd. When you question me, Sir, as you do, and on a subject so affecting to me, in the character of the representative of my best beloved friend, and have in every particular hitherto acted up to that character, you are entitled to my regard, especially as you are joined in your questioning of me by a gentleman whom I look upon as the dearest and nearest, because worthiest, relation of my dear friend, and who, it seems, has been so severe a censurer of my conduct, that your politeness will not permit you to send me his letter, with others of his, but a copy only, in which the passages reflecting upon me are omitted. I presume, however, that what is meant by this alarming freedom of the Colonel is no more than what you both have already hinted to me, as if you thought I were not inclined to pay so much regard to my beloved creature's last will in my own case, as I would have others pay to it; a charge that I ought not to be quite silent under. You have observed, no doubt, that I have seemed to value myself upon the freedom I take in declaring my sentiments without reserve upon every subject that I pretend to touch upon; and I can hardly question that I have, or shall, in your opinion, by my unceremonious treatment of you upon so short an acquaintance, run into the error of those who, wanting to be thought above hypocrisy and flattery, fall into rusticity, if not ill manners; a common fault with such who, not caring to correct constitutional failings, seek to gloss them over by some nominal virtue, when all the time, perhaps, these failings are entirely owing to native arrogance, or at least to a contracted rust, that they will not, because it would give them pain, submit to have filed off. You see, Sir, that I can, however, be as free with myself as with you; and by what I am going to write, you will find me still more free; and yet I am aware that such of my sex as will not assume some little dignity, and exact respect from yours, will render themselves cheap, and perhaps, for their modesty and diffidence, be repaid with scorn and insult. But the scorn I will endeavour not to deserve, and the insult I will not bear. In some of the dear creature's papers, which you have had in your possession, and must again have, in order to get transcribed, you will find several friendly, but severe reprehensions of me, on account of a natural, or at least an habitual warmth of temper, which she was pleased to impute to me. I was thinking to give you her charge against me in her own words, from one of her letters delivered to me with her own hands, on taking leave of me on the last visit she honoured me with: but I will supply that charge by confession of more than it imports, to wit, that I am haughty, uncontrollable, and violent in my temper. This I say. Impatient of contradiction, was my beloved's charge, from any body but her dear self, she should have said; and aim not at that affability, that gentleness, next to meekness, which, in the letter I was going to communicate, she tells me are the peculiar and indispensable characteristics of a real fine lady, who, she is pleased to say, should appear to be guileless as a dove, and never should know what warmth or high spirit is, but in the cause of religion or virtue, or in cases where her own honour, the honour of a friend, or that of an innocent person, is concerned. Now, Sir, as I needs must plead guilty to this indictment, do you think I ought not to resolve upon a single life? I, who have such an opinion of your sex, that I think there is not one man in 100 whom a woman of sense and spirit can either honour or obey, though you make us promise both in that solemn form of words, which unites, or rather binds us to you in marriage. When I look round upon all the married people of my acquaintance, and see how they live, and what they bear who live best, I am confirmed in my dislike to the state. Well do your sex contrive to bring us up fools and idiots, in order to make us bear the yoke you lay upon our shoulders; and that we may not despise you from our hearts, as we certainly should, if we were brought up as you are, for your ignorance, as much as you often make us do, as it is, for your insolence. These, Sir, are some of my notions; and with these notions let me repeat my question: do you think I ought to marry at all? If I marry either a sordid or an imperious wretch, can I, do you think, live with him? And ought a man of a contrary character, for the sake of either of our reputations, to be plagued with me? Long did I stand out against all the offers made me, and against all the persuasions of my mother; and, to tell you the truth, the longer and with the more obstinacy, as the person my choice would have first fallen upon was neither approved by my mother nor by my dear friend. This riveted me to my pride and to my opposition; for although I was convinced after a while that my choice would neither have been prudent nor happy, and that the specious wretch was not what he had made me believe he was, yet could I not easily think of any other man; and, indeed, from the detection of him, took a settled aversion to the whole sex. At last Mr. Hickman offered himself, a man worthy of a better choice. He had the good fortune (he thinks it so) to be agreeable, and to make his proposals agreeable, to my mother. As to myself, I own, that were I to have chosen a brother, Mr. Hickman should have been the man; virtuous, sober, sincere, friendly, as he is. But I wished not to marry, nor knew I the man in the world whom I could think deserving of my beloved friend. But neither of our parents would let us live single. The accursed Lovelace was proposed warmly to her at one time; and while she was yet but indifferent to him, they, by ungenerous usage of him, (for then, Sir, he was not known to be Beelzebub himself,) and by endeavouring to force her inclinations in favour first of one worthless man, then of another, in antipathy to him, through her foolish brother's caprice, turned that indifference, from the natural generosity of her soul, into a regard which she never otherwise would have had for a man of his character. Mr. Hickman was proposed to me. I refused him again and again. He persisted. My mother his advocate. I told him my dislike of all men, of him, of matrimony. Still he persisted. I used him with tyranny, led indeed partly by my temper, partly by design, hoping thereby to get rid of him, till the poor man, his character unexceptionably uniform, still persisting, made himself a merit with me by his patience. This brought down my pride (I never, Sir, was accounted very ungenerous, nor quite ungrateful), and gave me, at one time, an inferiority in my own opinion to him, which lasted just long enough for my friends to prevail upon me to promise him encouragement, and to receive his addresses. Having done so, when the weather glass of my pride got up again, I found I had gone too far to recede. My mother and my friends both held me to it. Yet I tried him, I vexed him, an 100 ways; and not so much neither with design to vex him, as to make him hate me, and decline his suit. He bore this, however, and got nothing but my pity. Yet still my mother and my friend, having obtained my promise, (made, however, not to him, but to them,) and being well assured that I valued no man more than Mr. Hickman, who never once disobliged me in word, or deed, or look, except by his foolish perseverance, insisted upon the performance. While my dear friend was in her unhappy uncertainty, I could not think of marriage. And now, what encouragement have I? She, my monitress, my guide, my counsel, gone, for ever gone, by whose advice and instructions I hope to acquit myself tolerably in the state to which I could not avoid entering. For, Sir, my mother is so partially Mr. Hickman's friend, that I am sure, should any difference arise, she would always censure me, and acquit him, even were he ungenerous enough to remember me in his day. This, Sir, being my situation, consider how difficult it is for me to think of marriage. Whenever we approve, we can find 100 good reasons to justify our approbation. Whenever we dislike, we can find 1,000 to justify our dislike. Every thing in the latter case is an impediment, every shadow a bugbear. Thus can I enumerate and swell perhaps only imaginary grievances. I must go whither he would have me to go; visit whom he would have me to visit. Well as I love to write, though now, alas, my grand inducement to write is over, it must be to whom he pleases. And Mrs. Hickman, who, as Miss Howe, cannot do wrong, would hardly ever be able to do right. Thus, the tables turned upon me, I am reminded of my vowed obedience, madam'd up perhaps to matrimonial perfection, and all the wedded warfare practised comfortably over between us; for I shall not be passive under insolent treatment, till we become curses to each other, a bye-word to our neighbours, and the jest of our own servants. But there must be bear and forbear, methinks some wise body will tell me. But why must I be teased into a state where that must be necessarily the case, when now I can do as I please, and wish only to be let alone to do as best pleases me? And what, in effect, does my mother say? Anna Howe, you now do every thing that pleases you. You now have nobody to controul you. You go and you come. You dress and you undress. You rise and you go to rest, just as you think best. But you must be happier still, child. As how, Madam? Why, you must marry, my dear, and have none of these options, but in every thing do as your husband commands you. This is very hard, you will own, Sir, for such a one as me to think of. And yet, engaged to enter into that state as I am, how can I help myself? My mother presses me; my friend, my beloved friend, writing as from the dead, presses me; and you and Mr. Morden, as executors of her will, remind me. The man is not afraid of me. I am sure, were I the man, I should not have half his courage; and I think I ought to conclude to punish him, the only effectual way I have to do it, for his perverse adherence and persecution, with the grant of his own wishes; a punishment which many others who enjoy theirs very commonly experience. Let me then assure you, Sir, that when I can find, in the words of my charming friend in her will, writing of her cousin Hervey, that my grief for her is mellowed by time into a remembrance more sweet than painful, that I may not be utterly unworthy of the passion a man of some merit has for me, I will answer the request of my dear friend, so often repeated, and so earnestly pressed; and Mr. Hickman shall find, if he continue to deserve my gratitude, that my endeavours shall not be wanting to make him amends for the patience he has had, and must still a little while longer have with me. And then will it be his own fault, I hope not mine, if our marriage answer not those happy prognostics, which filled her generous presaging mind upon this view as she wants for my encouragement,
and to induce me to encourage him, told me. Thus, Sir, have I, in a very free manner, accounted to you, as to the executor of my beloved friend, for all that relates to you, as such, to know; and even for more than I needed to do, against myself: only that you will find as much against me in some of her letters; and so, losing nothing, I gain the character of ingenuousness with you. And thus much for the double reprimand on my delaying my part of the performance of my dear friend's will. And now, while you are admonishing me on this subject, let me remind you of one great article relating to yourself. It is furnished me by my dear creature's posthumous letter to you. I hope you will not forget, that the most benevolent of her sex expresses herself as earnestly concerned for your thorough reformation, as she does for my marrying. You'll see to it then, that her wishes are as completely answered in that particular, as you are desirous they should be in all others. I have, I own, disobeyed her in one article; and that is, where she desires I would not put myself into mourning. I could not help it. I send this, and mine of Saturday last, together; and will not add another word, after I have told you that I think myself Your obliged servant, A. HOWE. End of Letter XLIX.